Good morning, everybody. It's Brooke with Mrs. Cog Hill Farm on a sunny, hot day in Alabama. I have done it again. I had a doctor's appointment, a follow-up for my break in my finger, and I don't know if you would say made a mistake or did a good thing by stopping at Lowe's home improvement store. I had a little something I needed to pick up, and I made my way to the garden center, which is, I guess, not always a good thing, but I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I really was going to look at the sale items because they tend to put plants on sale, and I'm not looking for anything that's an annual that won't come back next year. The only thing that we buy is perennials, unless it's something flowering that we want to plant the green stalk planter with. So I did. I ran into the Lowe's home department store, and y'all, I racked up. So Jason was not with me. He was at home, and I started sending him pictures of some of the plants that were marked down, and there's all types of salvias. There's some, well, goodness, there's a little bit of everything. There's even some ornamental garlic in here. There's some lilies. But I tell y'all what, if you are looking for plants, it's the heat of the summer. You're gonna have to keep them watered, no matter where you are. Even if you're not in Alabama, they're gonna come back next year, and you're gonna get so much bang for your buck by buying them now on clearance. Now, I went to 2 different locations because the first stop didn't have what I needed. So I stopped at the second location, and that's where the plants were for sale, so, or on sale. If you don't have good luck at your first stop, you might want to try another one because they are really, really on clearance at 75% off. I showed y'all in one of my last videos this area over here that Jason wants it to have like a cottage garden feel, and the roses are maturing. It will be next year when they start actually growing across the wire that he has up here. But this whole area is going to be covered in plants and just perennials that'll come back and be pretty much maintenance free. Once we get them in the ground, it's going to be beautiful over here. So for those of you that have been following my journey with my broke finger, I did have my pins taken out, and this last checkup they did x-rays, and it is healing, but they don't like the way the joint on the top is kind of hyperextending. So I have a new brace. It looks like electrical tape, but it's not. It's hard, and this brace allows me to move my fingers and not let that joint on the top of my knuckle hyperextend. So I'm wearing this brace while I'm outside working. When I'm inside, I can take it off and be free. And at night, I'm still wearing the brace or the splint that makes me keep my fingers straight. And that is helping, but I was told that my finger's never gonna be completely straight. As long as I can use my hand, that's a lot to be thankful for. I mean, I could have lost my finger, but this is the full range of motion that I have with closing my hand. Just that finger does not make a fist. And that part's probably never going to change. I'm okay with that. Of course, I'm going to continue to work it and do the best I can, but that's where I am now. Now, I want to thank Miss Carla for sending me a new hat. I tried to email her back to thank her for sending this, and the email wouldn't go through. So, Miss Carla, here it is. Thank you, and I appreciate it. I've got a new hemlock hat that I hopefully won't have to make repairs to sooner than later. I'm not going to go near Mo and Joe, and Mo's the reason it started looking ragged on the one that I made the repairs to. He thought that I had a hay hat, and it's not hay, it's actually straw, but he found out real quick that I didn't like him eating my hat, and I backed away, and I'm not going to make that mistake again. Today we have farmhand Caden. He is over with Jason, and he is trying to learn how to feed everything on the farm. We are going to take next week off. We have Miss Catherine over at G&G that can help us feed, but I also need to know that I have a second backup that knows everything, knows how to take care of things. In case something were to happen and Caden can't feed, then Catherine can do it and vice versa. So we will not have any videos. This will be my last one until next Sunday. Not this Sunday, but next Sunday. So we are taking a little break. Just gonna take that week off and not record anything, but y'all just know that we're fine. We just decided that it's easier for us to take that week off rather than trying to get ahead. Well, since I just exited the house, I thought I'd come back here and show y'all the purple martins and how they are landing on the power line and creating quite the colony back here in the back. I wanted to show y'all the purple martin structure that we had built by the man that was local to our old hometown of Valley Grande near Selma, Alabama. And you can see there's a purple martin sitting there. There's one perched on the outside of one of the gourds. And then, I don't know if y'all can see them, but they're lined up on the power line. So we did reach out to Mr. Gerald, and he is building us a second purple martin pole. And we will put it back here with this one. That's the plan. And keep increasing this colony because they're doing wonders for fly control. People think that they are mosquito eaters, and while they are, they also do a lot of good for flies. So they have about a 2-mile radius from where they reside, and I have no doubt that they're actually helping with the fly population over by the cows and the horses as well. And we of course welcome these guys anytime. So it looks like Jason has finished showing Caden how to take care of Mary Carl's pigeons over there in that area, and I'm going to go over and see if they have started to utilize any of the sticks that I put in there for them to add on to their nest or make repairs. Yesterday when I was in there, I couldn't really tell if they had done anything, but it was a quick trip. Mary Carl had already taken care of them, and I was tired. It was the end of the day, and I didn't stick around very long to examine the nest, but I'm hoping this morning I can make a observation to tell if they are indeed using any of the sticks. I wanted to show y'all that we printed out things that go in every single feed container, so there won't be any question about anybody that were to be feeding as to how to do it. These notes are just handy in case somebody different were to have to come and feed. So there they go. Jason did get Caden to feed this morning. He's on a practice run, and he's going to feed by himself tomorrow with us watching, just to make sure everything is understood and nobody gets mistaken food. But here's some of the branches that I put down. I cut down some cedar and just got some twigs and such. And I do think that they have started working on this nest here. While the one that's over in the shade is where I would prefer her to lay an egg if she's going to, I think that they're going to choose this spot this year, which she did last year. She chose this spot out in the wide open. She did lay a total of 2 eggs at 2 different times. They only lay 1 at a time, and the hatch was unsuccessful. So this year, we're just hoping that things go better and that she can indeed do what she needs to do to hatch a little one. And you can see how they build their nest. I know some of you were saying to brush the dogs and put their hair in here. Y'all, this is a different kind of bird. These birds are very large, and the way that they build their nest is out of large sticks, and they tuck them and put them in neatly. It's not your typical bird that uses, feathers and dog hair and things like that to line their nest. This is totally different. I think repairs have started. I really do. I think they have started to repair, and I think they just were wanting a little something extra to make amends to their nest. So I'll keep y'all updated. The camera is on this side. So that's not good, but we'll get some reach out of it if they were to start sitting, and especially if she were to hatch a little one, then we can, you know, we can get some footage from over here. But that camera has to be under shelter, and it requires Wi-Fi. So its reach is over here, but I don't think we can move it anywhere to where it's a better visual to over here. If we do see that she's chosen this spot and she is going to lay an egg, they start showing more signs of mating rituals and whatnot, we will go ahead and see if we can't move this camera. But we don't want to move it not knowing for sure if that's the spot she's chose. There's been minimal sticks added to make the repairs, so I'm not 100% certain if that's where she's chosen. But we will check on that before she lays an egg to make sure we don't need to move the camera. Well, the grass needs cutting once again. I always look forward to grass cutting at the beginning of the season, but by the time almost July is here, I'm tired of cutting grass. Mary Carl does help us cutting the grass, but it's a lot to keep up with. Even though we have animals in our pastures, we're just having to keep it cut. And Thomas, our turkey over here, and the boys, Not Scott and Not Scott, have started having a little drama again. So that's something that seems to happen about this time every year. And he's kind of outnumbered now, Thomas that is. He's got 2 of them, but you can see Thomas is the dominant one. The Peacocks, goodness, there's the mouth of the South. The Peacocks are kind of, even though it's 2 of them, Thomas is doing the instigating. Thomas is doing the instigating, and it hasn't been such a situation that we think we need to do anything different. However, we are monitoring it, and if anything needs to be done, we'll do so. I know when our peacock Scott was alive, Scott was fast, and you can see that those 2 are not slow. Thomas is a big boy. He is slow, but he starts it, and you would think that he would realize there's 2 of them and there's 1 of him. The peacocks can fly. Thomas has a hard time flying, so he doesn't leave this enclosure. But the peacocks could get away from him. Of course, their feed is in here, but they do indeed leave this area. It's just crazy to me that those 2 species of birds have to always go at it every single season. So Caden and Jason made their way to Gus and Loretta, and they are enjoying their breakfast. Did Caden feed you good, Mr. Gus? He do a good job? Yeah, you left a little bit. Yeah, you left a little bit. Loretta said, give me some camera time. That's right, girl. Yeah, we're gonna get you Mr. going this morning so you can have a nice spot in your shade with some water blowing on you. Yeah, it cools it off, doesn't it? You're not supposed to chew with your mouth open. That's bad manners. I really don't think she cares. But the shade cloth that Jason put up with the misting system on it is working out wonderful. It is still a challenge to keep their water clean because, of course, they are still getting in it. And right now, Loretta's drinking and it's overflowing, but she will get her big self in there, and then it really overflows. But it makes them a good wallow over here, and then when it heats up a little bit more, we'll turn these misters on, and these guys are really, really enjoying having a place out of the sun and some cool mist of water going on them continuously. Gus, you gonna show us how you get in it? It's too early, isn't it, buddy? You can see the mud coming off of his face. There we go, you're gonna get in it. And there's no way for us to keep that tub from getting muddy. We tried using nipples for them to suck on and put peanut butter on it, and they did use the nipple waterers, but we feel more comfortable having visible water to make sure they're drinking, because pigs get something called salt poisoning and if they don't have water. And I wouldn't want something to happen to one of those nipples. It gets stopped up, them not have water. That worries me. All right, boy. Mr. Joe and Mr. Mo, y'all have been fed this morning. Got a new big trough to make sure that y'all have ample water on these hot days. And I'm headed on over to the chicken coop because y'all get along very well, but I have found that I have two new fellas that are not doing so good. Well, here I am headed over to the chicken coop. Yesterday morning, I'm out here feeding, and there was some activity that Cheese alerted me to, and I really didn't pay any attention to it, honestly, but Cheese started going crazy. He was quacking and squawking, and I went over to see what he was aggravated about, and there are two roosters in the batch of pullets. A pullet is a hen, a baby chicken. There are two roosters, and I should have known it. I should have examined them closer. It doesn't matter to me that there was a rooster in the bunch because they say it's 90% accurate when you buy chickens from a feed store that are sexed or a hatchery. They say it's 90% accurate, but there's always that chance that it's 50% accurate. I have two roosters, and they are indeed not going to get along. Ryan, the rooster that lives out here, who is our oldest rooster, he's a Dominique. He is right here, has never had any kind of drama with another rooster in here. It's always been that another rooster finds him a challenge. And he's a good boy. He's docile. He's gonna stay here as long as he can live his life. But it just so happens that these two boys, and it happened so fast that I don't even know what breed they were. I'm looking around now trying to see if I can't figure out which two it was. But it was a tussle, and they are not gonna be able to stay together. They will end up fighting to the death, or either one of them will get injured, like what happened to Ryan. We thought that we could keep those two roosters here. Sometime it works out. We've got another little rooster in here that's neck and neck that has been in here for over a year. He has never challenged Ryan, and Ryan has never challenged him. So those two get along fine. If that's the case, they stay. But in this case, with those two starting to fight early on, I know I'm gonna have to make a change. And here's the little neck and neck that I said has never challenged Ryan. He's a cute little fella. He doesn't cause any trouble. He hatched here, but I don't know what his makeup is. He's calling the hens. He's doing a good job. He's nice to the ladies, and he can stay. If he doesn't cause any trouble, he's welcome here. I don't have roosters for reproduction. I have roosters because, well, they deserve a chance too. As long as they're not mean, they can stay. So Jason just finished showing Caden how to take care of everything in here, how to gather the eggs, but I wanted to show y'all that I have indeed opened the door for the lavenders. We are keeping a water in here in the coop. We're keeping a feeder in the coop. That will continue to stay in here because this is their comfort zone. They can come outside, they can join the big wide world. The big chickens can come in here, they can all roost together, but they're getting used to each other. And I think that in our experience, this is the perfect way to do it. We just feel like them having a safe place to come, as long as there's food and water. You can see Dolly's made herself a spot on their perch. She knows a good chicken when she sees it, and this is a safe place, isn't it, Dolly? We got a Rhode Island Red in here that maybe even Caden's mama Stephanie's. I'm not for sure. She's mingling with them and everything's fine, but they are free to go out if they choose, but they feel safe tucked away in here. And it's, I believe, day 3 since I have opened this door. So they do, I've seen them outside, but they are still just a little bit threatened by the bigger chickens, and that'll change over time. It'll change just like it did with the last batch that I let out. They're all outside, they're all mingling with the ones that have been here forever, and that'll be the same with the lavenders as time goes on. And occasionally we have people that have never watched us before that tune in, and if you're one of those, you may wonder, why in the world do we have a goose in with our flock of chickens? Well, our chickens are pretty much free range, but they are in an enclosed electrical fence that we keep electrified for their safety. And we have found that having Cheese the goose in there has been a great protection method against aerial predators. He will alert at the first sign of anything that is a threat to any of the hens, just like a rooster does. Now, I don't think that a goose would work out in everybody's situation, but in our situation, a goose has been the perfect addition to our flock. We did put Cheese in with the chickens when he was just a young gosling. I don't think that it would work out very well if you tried to put a grown goose in with a flock of chickens. The goose probably would not realize what his reasoning for being in with the chickens was, nor would the chickens realize why there was a goose in with them. So I do think if that's something that you're thinking about doing, you should start off with a gosling, which is a young goose, and let him or she be raised with the chickens to know that it's part of that flock. He has bonded with the chickens, and he just looks at them as his flock. So Caden and Jason haven't made it to Willie and Reska yet. I bet they got y'all's food soaking though, buddy. I bet they got your food soaking so you and Reska can have y'all's wet feed. No chance of anything happening if it's wet, no choke. I mean, of course it can happen, but we're gonna do everything we can to prevent that, and we let their feed soak as long as it takes for it to get wet and easily to digest for Reska and Mr. Willie. Now that I've made my way into the barn, I wanted to show y'all the progress on the little Silky that's sitting on the peacock egg. Peahen egg, I should say. There's Miss Snow White. You looking beautiful this morning, girl. We got a black Silky over here that is sitting on a single peahen egg with the expectations to hatch a baby peacock. And we don't really care if it's a male or a female. We think that that baby will be well accepted by everybody in here. Even if this Silky thinks it's its mom, it'll be fine, because we don't plan on separating Snow White and another one unless it becomes a problem and whatever is in here with her does not get along with the Silky. So she is indeed sitting on the egg still, and things are looking good. Things are looking good. So I'm very proud of you, girl. So Jason just hollered from the barn, oh my gosh, my water's overflowing. Moody, what do you think about this, buddy? This is your new sprinkler system. It somehow started going straight up, and the trough is full. So you think we ought to leave it going for a little while? I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna cut it off. The trough is indeed full, and Caden is getting y'all's feed to learn how to take care of the cows. Perfect example this morning, because everybody's here, which is not the case every single morning. Tater is usually here, Matilda's usually here, but Moody and Mildred are usually not here. Little man's back there in the back, and this is gonna be a perfect time for Caden to learn what to do when feeding, and there's more cows here than what need feed. All right, so I gotta show y'all Ernest and Opie this morning. I did open up this pasture. I had been letting Nugget and Goldie come in here, as well as the geese, to try to get some of this grass down, because they're not doing a good job at consuming it. I'm not gonna go out and buy more animals to eat more grass, but I will tell you that when the grass gets tall, there's more chance of parasite issues. So it may be that we do indeed have to cut the grass down some in here to make sure that the goats are intended to be protected from parasites the best way possible. It's just not worth it to take a chance at parasites when the grass does get too tall. And that sounds crazy. How can the grass get too tall? But goats are notorious for parasite issues, and you just want to keep that grass not too tall to let those parasites do their thing. Good morning, Miss Bootsie. How are you, girl? Yeah, I see you. Bootsie is a Nigerian dwarf. She is one of our oldest goats here, her and Mr. Tip and Top and Bo Peep. So Bootsie wanted a little camera time this morning, so I'm giving it to her with my injured hand. That's right. You're a gentle girl, except for when you decide you want a headbutt. And I'm glad you got some young ones out here that keep you young, as you continuously let them know that you're the lady in charge. So while the goats, the emus, the donkeys have the shade behind us of the stalls that they can go into during the heat of the day, we also find that they make their way to this wooded area in the back of the pasture where there is ample shade. And I'm so glad that we added this part to the pastures, because they really are doing a wonderful job at keeping the underbrush controlled. I've shared with you guys that have been watching for a while that we do want to open up the other side of the wooded area and allow the goats to have more range to control that underbrush. Goats are more foragers than they are grass eaters. People tend to get a misconception of that. They would rather have browse, so to speak, which is tree limbs and such, rather than pasture. If you don't have pasture, you can still have goats, but you need to provide them with some sort of browse. Now this is the shaded area that I hung the swing up, and it is just completely clean. Nothing on the ground that doesn't need to be. The goats have done a wonderful, wonderful job of keeping this area clean. And let me show y'all the next area that is not fenced in. It looked exactly the same as this area before we fenced it in. We would not put them in here with growth like this, because they can get too much of it too fast and cause bloat. But if we were to do this winter, at the beginning of the season, when there's not a lot of undergrowth, it would be perfect for them to keep this area under control. So you can see, I mean, it's just thoroughly overgrown, but we don't use any herbicides to try to keep the weeds under control and the undergrowth at bay. We just try to keep things natural. We want to protect the birds and bees best way possible. But look, I mean, look at the difference when I pan down the fence line at the overgrowth on this side. It's as far as you can see. And then what the goats have done to keep this area clear. So, you know, we got a lot of irons in the fire, and this is nothing dire that needs to be done, but our future plans are to indeed allow this area to be foraged by the goats and fence it in, and we can close it off if we need to. We can, it's just endless possibilities because we do have a good fence system. So I thought, since I've been enjoying this shaded area in the back where I did install the swing, I haven't showed it, so I thought that you guys might enjoy seeing how pleasant it is back here in the back part of the pasture, and how beneficial it is to have goats to control areas like this that were overgrown with underbrush. So I'm just going to sit back here for a few minutes and enjoy the quietness, the shade, soak in all the sounds of the wildlife. It's hot early on, the goats are out browsing, and I'm sitting in my swing that I put back here, and I'm so glad I did. When I installed it, I took a little tumble because the bolts that I put in didn't hold very well. It's not many times that we get to sit down and enjoy and take a load off of our feet, but every opportunity we get, we soak it in and just realize how blessed we are to have such a wonderful group of animals to care for, because they're good to us, and I feel like we're pretty good to them too. So y'all remember, there will not be any videos next week. We will be back after July the 4th, and things will resume as normal. Jason will have a Friday video as planned, but after that, we will be off for a week, and just gonna kind of put our feet up and relax and reset, and everybody needs a break from time to time, so we're gonna do just that, and we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Y'all watch some old videos if you haven't. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. We love y'all, and we'll be back after the 4th of July. Thank you guys, and y'all be good.